The background of this use case is that there's a need to be able to actually analyze invoice data coming in from, let's say, different vendors. But in order to actually analyze and do any type of planning with that data, you need to be able to get it into a tabular format ready to be actually pushed in. You don't want to go through the rekeying of data, so forth and so on. And I have here an example of an invoice that we might see every day. So it has different content on here. It's got a summarization. It's got your billing details. It has your billing details going across multiple pages. It has as well your rate card right here. Note that the rate card doesn't actually have a bill rate, so we're actually going to back into that in our calculation. And it has other ancillary information, some of which is relevant and not so relevant. But basically, we have this content here. So coming back to Nexadata, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to use the unstructured data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a template using that PDF, which will be specific to that PDF. So when that comes in, the next time it comes in, it'll be automatically processed based upon the template that we're about to establish here. So what it's doing right now is it's actually reading in that template, reading in that PDF and establishing basically the different tables that it finds and the different data sets that can be used and made relevant and reusable across the structured data. So the first table we're looking at here basically is the invoice details. And we'll just call that invoice details. If you look carefully, you'll see that there are actually no headers here. So we can do the information that's relevant to us actually is invoice date, invoice number, matter number, maybe. We're just going to pivot that. And we'll pivot that and we'll say, you know what? I want the invoice date and I want the invoice number, just like that. Okay. Don't really care about my discount. That's irrelevant for what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to go ahead and discard that. I don't really care as well about my outstanding balances. We'll go ahead and discard that. I don't care about my banking details either, so we'll discard that. What I do care about is my billing details. Okay, because I want to do the analytics, and one of the other requirements of this is based upon the description. I want to map that to categories that I'm trying to map or trying to plan against. So here I'm going to take this information and I'm going to combine that inside of what's called my Dataset Builder. We'll also tag this as a main table, and we'll change the column type here, and we'll specify that the column is date, this is decimal, and we can then move on. The next table of relevance is the rate card. This is not a main table, and we'll set that the column type here is currency, and that the hours here is decimal because we have fractions of hours, and everything else is relevant there. And here we don't care about the ancillary content like materials used and so forth. We're just keeping this straightforward. So now I've got my 3 different relevant tables parsed out and tagged, and then now I've established my template. We're going to save the tables, and we're going to call this here legal invoice dataset builder for DSB. We're going to set the primary table, the billing details is my primary, and we can then now start to transform. Notice straight away that the information comes in, it's combined that multiple billing details, which ran across multiple pages. It's also joined in the content here of hours, invoice date, so forth and so on. So the next thing I want to do is actually add in the rate card. So let's go ahead and just do this in this mode here. And we'll say add rate card. And we'll add that rate card. And the only common key between the two is the timekeeper, the person who actually did the work. And so we can see this here. We'll do a right join on that. And straight away, we actually now bring in, John Lee, Benjamin Curtin, Lisa James Brown, so forth and so on, their total amount and their hours. But we don't really actually have their bill rate. So let's go ahead and calculate that. So I'll go ahead and insert a new column, call it calc bill rate. This will be currency. I'll just set a few settings here. And at this point now, we will calculate that this is a calculated value. And we'll say amount divided by hours. Okay, very simple, formulaic expression that we just put in there. Straight away now we have the bill rate set to 1900. Now I can start to take that bill rate and then calculate, for example, the hours that were used and actually get the calculation. So I could carry on with that analysis. The next thing that I want to do is, let's actually clean this up just a little bit here. Let's remove here my, I'm going to remove my amount and my hours. So that's no longer needed. Okay. And now the next thing I want to do to get this now to become planning ready is I want to actually take these descriptions and automatically map that to various categories that I'm planning against. Now, in this case here, I'm using a pre-existing mapping group. So I can come in, use an existing mapping group, and I have here my legal services mapping, what's already been pre-established. Map details, or map description, I meant to say. And we'll choose that. This has been pre-established, and basically it's looking at the description and mapping it to those categories that are relevant to me. So if we click in like that, we can see straight away that that now comes in. So let's go ahead and save that out. And now we have this data that now becomes Anaplan ready. So I can now take this, convert this to a data set, and then carry on with the existing connections that I have it set up, and then push that into my existing system, or join this data, let's say, with other data sets that might be relevant for my planning, analytics, whatever that downstream source system is needing. So hopefully this gave you a bit of an idea of some of the power that we have with Nexadata.